For more on energy chaos in Europe, we're joined by Remi Piet. He's the senior partner in Embeille Advisory. Good to see you again. Let me just start with this. There's a lot of skepticism here. The pipeline's going to be shut again for a few more days because of maintenance. Some people are saying this is just a political posturing. I'm just going to leave it at that. What do you think the real reason behind the closures are?
Well, hi, Phil. Thank you for the invitation. First of all, yes, indeed, it very much looks like a political posturing from the Kremlin on these maintenance issues. The Kremlin has been blaming the sanctions for incapacity to import spare parts to be able to work on the turbine. But we've seen already in the past the fact that those maintenance parts were actually available. Germany actually made them available, and it's actually a political decision from Russia to only use the pipeline at 20% of the capacities, and even shut it down for a couple of days for a supposed planned maintenance. In truth, what Russia is trying to do is to flex up its muscles to really show its capacity to disturb the energy security of the entire continent, especially on countries that are extremely dependent on Russian gas. The situation in Europe is very different from one country to the next. I mean, you have countries such as Spain, Portugal, that have strong capacities for importing gas from Algeria, others that are very quickly building some regasification units. But indeed, some European countries are very vulnerable from...
Right. And Remi, I don't know if it was you or we had, I think, a number of other guests, including yourself, talked about this last time, was that, yes, Russia can flex their muscles and the rest of Europe will just simply, turn down the heat, so to speak. But they said that there is enough electricity, for the most part, for Europe to make it through the winter. In light of what's happening right now, would you still agree with that?
No, I do agree with that. I mean, if you actually look at the numbers for reserves, especially natural gas in France, for example, ENGIE, which is the last one to face sanctions from Moscow, has confirmed before those sanctions that had been able to fill up their tanks of 90% of the use of the gas needed for the winter, and they will be able, from other sources, whether it's from Azerbaijan or Qatar or others, to be able to reach the capacities to provide the needed gas for the population. The issue here is more an issue of price. And not only an issue of price of natural gas, but also overall of electricity across Europe, since there's a coupling of electricity prices on the price of gas across the continent. That's why you've seen the European Commission very quickly moving forward on decision to decouple those prices. That was a long time demand by a series of countries, France as one of the main ones. Germany was usually lagging behind on this decision, but they have joined the concert of nations on these ones, and we're seeing more and more of a push for decoupling those prices of electricity, which would be much better for the populations suffering today.
Let me slightly shift gears to what's happening in Zaporizhia, where that Europe's biggest nuclear power plant sits. There is serious concerns that one, no one should be shelling, but there is shelling around the plant, and both sides are accusing each other. So I want to get your thoughts on that, on who's actually doing the shelling. And number two, we have the IAEA, who is making a visit to assess the safety of it as to what report might come out of that. This seems to be a pretty serious situation.
Well, in terms of shelling, it's hard to be able to have strong and good intelligence on this. Most science seems to point more at the Russian side, on the Ukrainian side. The Zaporizhia nuclear plant also has been confirmed that there were some military equipments from Russia actually being housed into and in the neighborhood of the plant. Obviously, that's a kind of a safe house for being able to put some warehouses and stocks of military equipment. That's what the Russians are doing today. In terms of the visit from the IAEA officers, the question is what will be their mandate? If they're able to actually inspect the entire Zaporizhia plant or just some parts of it, and obviously the question is, even if they can actually come to visit, what would be their capacity to try to move towards a demilitarized zone, which seems like a crazy dream as of today, since it's actually clearly of a strategic importance for Russia to use this potential threat on nuclear power plant for
Right. I don't think it's crazy. I mean, I've heard a number of experts come out and say that why not have the United Nations? I mean, that's the purpose of the UN, is sort of a peacekeeping force to come in there and create a big, sort of moat around the nuclear power plant. Because if that thing blows up, everyone's a loser, right? From Ukraine to Russia to a big swath of Europe. So the UN's job is to make sure that this area is safe, and they can still continue to have this conflict that they're having, obviously, But my God, if that thing blows up or melts down, this is a mistake that generations are going to pay for. And we're going to be the ones standing by saying, well, we decided to do nothing, and we as in the UN.
No, absolutely. I mean, we agree on this. I mean, ideally, that would be the best case scenario. Unfortunately, when you look at a UN mandate, those are usually decided at this, the Security Council, where Russia has a veto power. So that's where it's unlikely to happen. What could happen, however, is facing more strong pressure and actually seeing that the Zaporizhia, in terms of purely military interest, the location of it is not so strategic for Russia. Maybe a decision from Putin to actually move away his troops. What is unlikely to be seen is a solution in the very short term, and indeed we are facing one of potentially one of the most threatening situations since obviously Chernobyl and the impact that these had in terms of the European nation.
It is, it's amazing how this conflict has had an impact on the energy markets, the nuclear market. I mean, the list goes on, and I feel like we're just starting to scratch the surface of the impacts of this. Remi, great to see you, my friend. And thank you for the insights on this incredibly important topic for Europe and quite honestly for the world.